Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here as we get ready for race number 9 of Division 2 of the NNSCRA Skittles Super Speedway Series, capping off. It's been an exciting race weekend here at the Pepsi Super Speedway. 38 laps of racing here. I actually noticed this is one of our longer races of the season as well. Yesterday's race was rather lengthy, and I'm expecting probably the same will be said in today's race. So it makes it more of a fuel strategy type race for the fans, and also throws a bit of a monkey wrench here into this portion of the season, because right now I think we could safely say, heading into this race, at least for Division 2, this is now our chase towards the chase for the championship. Obviously, we are into the second half of the regular season, so we dub it that anyway, but even more so because we've run 8 races. We've had 8 different drivers go to victory lane. Coming into this race, all 8 playoff spots available for the 8 drivers that will make it into the playoffs here for Division 2 are filled by drivers that have previously this season been to victory lane. So now it really all comes down to either getting that first win to make sure you're in the running for one of those 8 playoff spots, or getting a second win to be able to lock yourself confirmed into this season's chase for the championship. So it really all comes down to wins from this point on until the checkered flag waves at the end of race 15. But we're going to focus on today's race as we get set with Alexander Rowe, Simon Bloomfield, and all Camry front row. Alexander Rowe becoming the 18th different pole sitter this season between the 2 divisions. We've yet to have a repeat pole sitter. He gets the first pole of his career. Bloomfield, best starting position he's had this season as well. As a matter of fact, Simon Bloomfield comes into this race top 10 in the point stands as well, so this could be really big for the driver of the Discord Toyota Camry. We're going to go down trackside, get those most famous words in motorsports, and then we'll fill you in on what the playoff grid looks like getting ready for today's race.
Drivers, start your engines.
So as the command is given and we get ready to have these cars roll off for their 1 pace lap, let's give you what the playoff grid looks like coming into this race. Now, as I said, basically the 8 spots are currently filled in by the 8 different race winners so far this season. The way they would line up in terms of the seeds right now would be according to where they are currently in points. Fury Gamington, the points leader, would obviously have the first seed. Our M&M's winner, Jeff Scott, would be second. John Andrews, who took the checkered flag last week at Coca-Cola, he would be third. Nathan Ormond, our winner from Dragonette, 4th. Caleb Farrell, our Daytona winner, 5th. Vince Almariego, our winner from Pensacola, would be 6th. Sedale Salera, our Madrid winner, would be in 7th, and 8th place would be our Armory winner, William Brock. Now, we mentioned during, I believe it was the qualifying session for the Division 2 drivers, how Sedale Salera and William Brock come into this race 26th and 29th in points. They need good runs today, pretty much to keep themselves in the top 30 in points. Obviously, they'd love to be able to get a second win to help their chances of making it into the playoffs, but obviously, more importantly, they need a consistent run today to be able to keep themselves in the top 30, or else those wins they've got this season won't matter for anything in terms of a postseason berth. If we're looking at the overall top 10 in the battle for the overall championship for the regular season, Fury Gamington leads that by 49 points over a tie between Nathan Stapleton and Jeff Scott. Karson Gum is 4th, Michael Norman 5th. Then John Andrews, Jordan Lopez, Jake Hallec, Simon Bloomfield, and Kyle Langeland. That is your top 10 in that regard. We'll keep tabs on that as well, because obviously these drivers like to be able to win the regular season championship, and some drivers that might be in the running for that may not necessarily be in the running for the playoffs. As the green flag's in the air, we're underway at Pepsi Super Speedway. Let's roll. Had a great race here yesterday in Division 1, not without incident though, some pretty hard hits and a couple of wrecks that took place in that race, but we also saw green flag pit stops, which eventually led us to a last lap pass, and saw a first-time winner in Derek Hamill. We'll see if the case is going to be here today, another first-time winner, or will we see for the first time here in Division 2 a driver go to victory lane for the second time in their Skittles Super Speedway Series career. And expect to see a lot of this. 4 wide into turn 2, Nathan Ormond with help from Dillon Young. They were not able to get to the inside of Alexander Rowe, though, so it is Toyota, Chevy, Ford, the top 3. Looks like everybody's going to complete the first lap without incident. Who's going to lead the first lap? It will be the Red Bull Toyota of Alexander Rowe. Oh, wait a minute. Guess we weren't without incident because the caution flag is out. Yellow flag out here before the conclusion of lap 1. So whatever happened must have been either between like maybe 2 drivers spinning or else it was near the rear of the field because it looked like everybody was up in the lead pack. And we got a couple cars on pit road. One of them is Sedale Salera. You see him bottom of your screen. And we talked about how he needed a good run coming into this race to stay in the top 30. Looks like the wreck might have been off turn 4. There's smoke lingering at the entrance of pit road. Jordan Lopes was the car we were just focused on. He's out of the race. And that's Michael Norman coming to pit lane in the number 3 Jurassic World Chevy. And he comes into this race overall 5th in points. He's in the hunt for that overall title for the regular season. I think he might have spun down pit road and had to make a pit stop because of having to come down pit road to avoid a wreck. Don't know if he was involved in the wreck or not. And with the look of the damage on the 30 of Sedale Salera, I think we had a flip here on the first lap of this race. So I don't know if this couldn't have been coming to green. So this might have just been out of turn 4 just before the leader hit the start-finish line. But we are under caution for the first time here today at Pepsi, and we got a couple of takers. The top 2, Rowe and Ormond, will hit pit road. Looks like some of these drivers are thinking this race may go green to the end, maybe doing a little bit of pit strategy here. That's going to turn the race lead over to the 2 of Dillon Young when we go ready to go back green. Let's take a look and see what brought out the first caution of the day here at the Pepsi Super Speedway. So it's back towards the rear of the field. And we'll see if we can tell where the initial contact took place. Oh, there it was right there. It looked like Lopes. I don't know if he got some help, but he went up into William Flickinger, and then he hooks Michael Norman, who then comes down and gets Sedale Salera. And I have a feeling Sedale's going to be the one that's going to take the brunt of this inside wall. Oh. I think he became stuck in the wall, actually. And Norman avoided it all, it looked like. I think he's got some right side damage from some contact, but I think for the most part he got through unscathed, but he got forced to pit lane. Let's take another camera angle here, see just how violent the hit was for Sedale. And you didn't get to see the very beginning, but it looks like Jeff Scott pinched William Flickinger down into Jordan Lopez's right rear, and that's what basically triggered this wreck. And we're going to see here. Sedale's car heads down towards that inside wall, and yeah, you can see right there, it just comes lodged. The rear end gets lodged into that inside wall, and that's not a safer barrier for those of you wondering. So that was not an easy hit for Sedale Salera to take. Jordan Lopes there as well, and Lopes comes into this race 7th in the point stands. Had a great run last week at Coca-Cola, moved up into the top 10. Looks like he's not going to finish well today, so he'll probably drop back out of the top 10. And speaking of dropping out, that's going to really hurt Sedale Salera, who came in 26th in points. Our Madrid winner dropped 8 spots last week after Coca-Cola. Will probably drop out of the top 30 and now is going to find himself in a very perilous position in the upcoming 6 races to try and get himself back in and stay in the top 30 in points for that Madrid win to even count towards a spot in the playoffs. But for now, let's go back for the restart. Dillon Young is your current race leader. And only because Alexander Rowe gave up the lead, Nathan Ormond gave up second to come to pit lane. So you got to think that with the 8 of these caution laps and topping off there, that drivers that came to pit road, like Rowe, like Ormond, that they're probably going to be 1 to 2 laps to the good over the drivers that decide to stay out if we end up having a round of green flag pit stops. So Dillon Young will restart the leader. As you see the drivers out of the race, 2 of them in total, Sedale Salera and Jordan Lopes. So tough break for both of them to start off this race, as they didn't even really, in all honesty, be able to complete lap 1. So Young will start ahead of Cody Llamas, so a couple of Floridians line up 1-2. Levi McIntire there in 3rd, Patrick Smith 4th, Vince Almariego right now the highest run of our former winners this season. He's in 5th, Charles Sandfer 6th, 7th is Rob Evans, 8th Caleb Farrell, 9th Tristen Allen, and completing your top 10 is going to be Chris Maley. Alexander Rowe came to pit road as the leader. I believe he's lining up in the 18th position. So I think we had 17 drivers decide to stay out here under this first caution. Green flag comes back out at lap number 6. So now it's going to be interesting to see if this settles into a long green flag run or not, as Cody Llamas wants a chance out in front. Cody Llamas jumped up 8 spots in the point standings last week, from 33rd up to 25th. Llamas, of course, also a pole sitter, I believe, this season. I'm trying to remember where it was at. Dillon Young, a pole sitter as well. And here comes Levi McIntire. Now, there's a driver that really could use a good run. And Levi, 39th in the points coming into this race. He's got Patrick Smith pushing him. But now he's got Charles Sandfer and Rob Evans on that inside line trying to get a run. He will be able to block them, though, into 3. Looks like Levi might be able to hold him off and lead this lap. Levi McIntire, only one top 10 in the first 8 starts of the season, average finish of around 27th, so it's obviously not been that great of a season so far for Levi McIntire, but there is still time to be able to turn it around. All you really need is to get yourself a win, maybe a couple of wins, get yourself in the top 30 in points, and you could be down 30th in the standings with 2 wins and still be in the number 1 seed. Rob Evans now to the inside. Rob had 2 good runs 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Last week, however, not exactly the run he was looking for. Did not finish well at Coca-Cola and dropped 13 spots in the standings down to 34th. And that was after back-to-back top 5 finishes at both, I believe it was Madrid and Pensacola. Now out in front leading this race, McIntire second, Charles Sandfer there in third. Sandfer was another driver that did not finish well last week at Coca-Cola. Dropped 10 spots in the standings and comes into this race in the 32nd position. Right behind them, you've got a couple of Ford Fusions. 62 of Kyle Langeland, 10th in the point standings. He's picked it up as of late, jumped up into the top 10 last week. And Alex Benyacko, he was up in the top 10 earlier on this season, kind of fell out, but now he's starting to climb his way back up, gained 3 spots last week up to 16th coming into this race. And Alexander Rowe there in the 83, who I believe went with a 4-tire stop as they topped the car off. He's now starting to charge back to the front after he gave up the lead to come to pit road under our only caution so far. 2-car breakaway at the front. Rob Evans and Levi McIntire, a Chevy and a Ford, and McIntire going to put the slide job on him. Get to the inside and looks to take the lead once again out of turn 4. Got teammates working together there. 62 of Langeland, 26. Oh, got trouble in the middle of the field. That's Cody Llamas around. Spinning right in the middle of the field. It looked like everyone did a good job avoiding him, though, as McIntire is going to lead that lap, and we are now under yellow for the second time today. Oh, and he did not get avoided. Nathan Ormond, our Dragonette winner, got a piece of it. Looked like for the most part everyone was going to avoid Cody Llamas. Everyone was doing a good job scattering, but apparently not the case for the Rusty's Medicated Bumper Oil Chevrolet of Nathan Ormond. Now Ormond comes into this race 12th in points, had a good run last week at Coca-Cola, gained 8 spots, so I think he'll still be able to continue, but even if he wasn't able to, he's got himself a nice little cushion between him and 30th, so still very much in the conversation for a spot in the playoffs this season, as Levi McIntire will lead us under this yellow flag. You got to think probably some of these drivers are going to take this opportunity to come to pit road, and Alexander Rowe, who moved his way up to 6th, maybe he's going to be the race leader when we go back green. Who knows? But for now, we're going to take a look back and see what happened out of turn 4. Cody Llamas with some contact with Nathan Ormond is the reason for our second yellow of the day. 4 wide, coming through turns 3 and 4. And we'll see where the initial contact begins. Saw the 15 get hooked around. The car to his inside there is Alex Gray. They were 5 wide, actually. That might be what it is. I think maybe Cody might come up into Vince Almariego. And yeah, he kind of crowded the 56, who had to allow Adam Garcia and Charles Sandfer, who were both to his outside, to have room. Look at Alex Gray, just split the wall. And there might have been a little contact there with Oneal Balvin, the 11. You can just barely see the white hood of that car. He might have had a little bit of contact, and there is Nathan Ormond as well. We're going to just, not for the sake of time, so we don't have to go back and look at a separate replay, see just how significant a hit this was for Nathan Ormond. Look at Fury Gamington, the points leader. Nice avoidance there. Oh, yeah, that was, well, that wasn't a hard hit, but it certainly is going to affect the 95 aerodynamically. I don't know how this is going to affect Cody Llamas, as that was a hit into the left front. Looks like he's got some pretty visible front end damage as well, though, too. So, and that was around 110, 115 miles per hour, that hit. So I don't know if that's really going to affect these drivers in terms of taking them out of the race. I don't think so, but I think it is going to hurt them in terms of straightaway speed, especially at a track that is so draft reliant. We're about ready to go green once again, but a couple of other cars are going to be out of the race before we do so. Jake Galloway and Michael Norman. This was after the drivers had received the caution. Galloway and Norman were quite a ways back, and they just never slowed down. Galloway runs into the back of outside pole sitter Simon Bloomfield. Norman's into the back of him. That actually spins the 21 around. You can just see all the damage on the front of Norman, and also the same on Jake Galloway. Galloway coming into this race all the way down in the 38th position in points. Was trying to climb out of the cellar, but looks like his day is done. And Michael Norman, this is going to hurt him. 5th in the point standings coming into this race, trying to battle for the regular season championship. And just like that, he's out of this race as well. So we could have upwards of maybe 6 drivers, maybe out of the race by the time we go back green, which I'm being told is about to happen. And there you see it. Yes, indeed. 6 drivers will not be taking the green flag here. Jake Galloway, who we saw with that stack up with Michael Norman, they're out of the race. Nathan Ormond and Cody Llamas, who brought out that caution, they're both out. I didn't think the damage was significant enough to take them out, but apparently that's the case. And the 2 drivers that were involved in our first caution, Sedale Salera, Jordan Lopes, also behind the wall, leaving us 34 of our original 40 drivers still left on the racetrack. Now, Alexander Rowe did come to pit road. Everybody actually came to pit road under that yellow flag. But due to the fact that Alexander Rowe had been on pit road back under the first caution, didn't have to take nearly as much fuel, was able to get out ahead of Levi McIntire, who was the leader when the caution came out. So McIntire will line up in 2nd. Rob Evans in 3rd. Kyle Langeland 4th. John Andrews 5th. Then it's Brock Turner, Voyles, Simon Salera, and Alex Benyacko is going to be your top 10. We've seen during the course of this race a couple of times some near misses by the points leader Fury Gamington, still running, 49-point lead coming into this race over Nathan Stapleton and Jeff Scott, neither of whom we've seen at the front of the field either. So right now, things looking good for Fury Gamington in order to keep a pretty good points lead heading into next week's race, which is going to be, by the way, at Talladega Superspeedway. Green flag back in the air here on lap 13. And even at this point, going back green with 25 laps to go, we know, based off of yesterday's Division 1 race, that these drivers cannot make it that full scheduled distance on fuel. Fuel window is somewhere between 16 to 18 laps, maybe 19 laps if you've saved a little bit under the green flag run. So these drivers will have to be back on pit road somewhere around lap 32, I would say. Somewhere maybe a little before, between laps 30 to 32. That is, if we do not have a 3rd yellow flag wave during the course of that span, as Rob Evans will go to the race lead. Trying to get back on track after a little bit of a derailment last week at Coca-Cola. And Levi McIntire, who lost the race lead on pit road after the pit stops, now trying to take the spot back. Simon Salera was leading that inside line. Now he gets moved to the middle. Alex Benyacko, the foreman of that lead group, on the bottom. Then you got Benny Watson behind him, Dillon Young, Charles Sandfer, and there's Nathan Stapleton. So we do have a driver now finally trying to put a dent into Fury Gamington's points lead, but maybe not, because right behind him is the 10 car of Fury Gamington. So while Stapleton is making forward progress, so is the driver. He's trying to run down for the overall point standings lead. Well, this has got to be 5 wide going into the corner here. Charles Sandfer is going to make that move. Oh, this is not going to be good through turns 3 and 4. Can they settle it out? Watson in the middle. Evans way up top side. No friends up there. Oh, are they going to make it? No, they're not. Daniel Voyles around. Benyacko's around. Hallec Shelly, Brock is involved. As they race back to the line, it will be Levi McIntire leading us under his second straight yellow flag. And that just, you kind of knew that if they couldn't handle 5 wide back under that second yellow flag, they weren't going to be able to handle it here. That was the case. Caution is out. Question is, did we have any hard hits, or did everybody do a pretty good job of either avoiding or spinning and hitting nothing? That's Josh Drake, the 66 on pit road. I think he might have spun there. Oh, last week's winner, John Andrews, though, he's got some pretty good damage, as does James Shelly. The terrible season continues for the 71 team, dead last in points. That's where they'll remain. Oh, Alex Gray, a lot of damage on the Exalta Chevy. He's out of the race. Karson Gum, a couple of the Backmarker Motorsports cars with a lot of damage. Carson's car is completely crunched up. There is John Andrews. A lot of damage on the left side of his car. His win last week at Coca-Cola moved him up to 6th in the standings, so he's got a little bit of a buffer between himself and 30th in points. There's one of the cars I saw initially spinning, Daniel Voyles. Someone else is smoking up there. Oh, that's the 84 of Chris Maley. So Maley's involved. Simon Salera, I think, got a piece of it. Benyacko, I know, spun out. Possibly, well, no, looks like Fitzwater might be okay. Oh, we got another car up here that's blown up. I don't know if that's due to crash damage or not. Yeah, he's got front end damage. That's Trey Wright, the 34. Another car on pit road. Well, actually, we got a number of cars on pit road. Some due to crash damage, some just coming down for regular stops. Looks like some right front damage on William Flickinger. I do know that William Brock got a piece of it, at least with the left front of his SunTrust Chevrolet. Caleb Farrell's on pit road. Looks like that's just a regular stop for the Daytona winner. And I know Jake Hallec actually was one of the cars that spun out as well. I think he might have been the one that Brock hit, if memory serves me correctly. We'll find all that out and more, though, as we're going to head back and take a look at a replay of what brought out this third caution of the day. They're starting to pile up in the garage area at the Pepsi Superspeedway. Yeah, I mean, you just can't even pinpoint where it started. There were about 3 different areas in that hornet's nest where drivers were turning each other. So the most he can do is just watch the aftermath and see who was involved. I'm being told we had a couple of cars flip over. And one of them might have been Karson Gum, who's going to take the brunt there into the wall. Oh, wow, look at Chris Maley come flying in the 84. I don't know who he got hit by, but James Shelly goes up and over. Alex Gray's going to go up and over. There's the 34 of Trey Wright, so he was definitely involved in this. See a couple of cars having to go to pit lane. Daniel Voyles there in the 26. Although I'm pretty sure he spun out, so I think that's what directed him to the pit lane. That was a hard hit there for Karson Gum. I'm interested to find out what happened to have the 84 of Chris Maley come flying in the way he did. Alright, Rex already started. And there's some contact there between himself and William Flickinger. Oh, and he gets spun off the nose of Trey Wright. He wasn't really out of the gas. They were all trying to make it through the wreck, and that's why he came in with such a violent hit to the back of James Shelly, and there you see Alex Gray go over. I'm not really sure why the 08 went over, unless it's the difference between the banking and that apron that caused the weight differential for him to flip over. I didn't really see him get hit. Shelly upside down, sliding towards the start-finish line. That's been the story of his season. We've got a lot of drivers with damage here. Benyacko came to pit road, so did Simon Salera, all trying to avoid the wreck, or maybe they just got spun to pit road. Saw a couple of drivers that were 3 wide coming down pit road. Zachary Fitzwater, Josh Drake, and I couldn't tell who the other car was. Might have been Simon Salera, actually. So big wreck here out of turn 4. Gets us set for yet another restart. Well, with that wreck, we have the departure of James Shelly, Alex Gray, Karson Gum, Chris Maley, and Trey Wright. Now, Josh Drake, I mentioned, got into Zachary Fitzwater as they were coming down pit road. And right now, scored 2 laps down is the 66. He's just now leaving pit lane. So I'm not certain if he got glitched into his pit box or what went on there, or if he had to serve a penalty for coming down pit road too fast. I'm not certain, but whatever the case, he's off the lead lap and right now is in line to finish in the 29th position. That is if we have seen our last caution flag. Levi McIntire, he is the race leader over Charles Sandfer, Fury Gamington in 3rd, Dillon Young 4th, Nathan Stapleton 5th. He's got his 2 teammates right behind him then too. Watson 6th, Turner in 7th, then it's Evans, Langeland, and Almariego, your top 10. In terms of the drivers that got involved in that wreck, I think the one that we would have to single out the most would be Karson Gum out of this race. He came into this session 50 points back, 4th in the standings. Going to take a hard hit here. And also a driver that's still running, but he's got some damage there, the 13 of Jack Hallec. I don't know how badly damaged he is with that spin out and a little bit of contact with William Brock, but he comes into this race 8th in points. We'll have to see how the damage affects him and how well he will be able to leave Pepsi Super Speedway in terms of in the top 10 in points. The green flag is back in the air. Now, I should point out, nobody came to pit road under that yellow flag, as Josh Drake's going to get one of his laps back, driving around Levi McIntire. Kind of Kyle Busch the start, but he's not in the lead lap, so it really doesn't matter. It's not for position. The only thing is, I have a feeling that he's probably going to get reeled in by these guys again, so he may be a little bit of a moving chicane for these drivers. As Fury Gamington, the points leader, 7 top 10s in 8 starts this season. That's the most of any driver, and he's trying to make it 8 for 9 and trying to pick up his 2nd win of the season, as well as he's going to go 3 wide for the top position with Charles Sandfer and Levi McIntire. He'll get the spot, but will he lead the lap as he's going to be pinned behind the 66 of Josh Drake? Dillon Young right behind him. Thought he might try to use the 66 as a pick, not able to do it. Well, wait a minute. He's got some pretty good help there with Benny Watson. Can he get enough straightaway speed? Who led that lap? Who was it? They're saying it was Sandfer by a splitter, and he was on the outside line. 4 wide going into turn 1. That's Benny Watson down low. Young in the middle. Gamington high, and Charles Sandfer even higher. Benny Watson, who fell out of the top 10 in points, down to 17th. Coming into this race, he was 9th heading into Coca-Cola. Did not have a good run, trying to bounce back. He was in the top 10 in points for, I think, about 3 of the last 4 weeks, not counting last week. And now Vince Almariego, our winner from from Pensacola, rather. He's going to go to the top position. Kyle Langeland's going to push him there. Almariego trying to get his 2nd win in 3 starts, or in 3 races, I should say. Well, 3 starts, 3 races, same thing. Langeland's going to go to the middle. Rob Evans with a big run down low, but doesn't really have anybody offering him some help. I think Almariego might clear them both going into turn 1, and he will. He'll keep the top spot for the moment. The thing about that caution coming out, though, and the leaders not coming to pit road, we know that they couldn't have had enough pace laps to be able to allow them to make it the remainder of the way on fuel. Now, our projection was they were going to have to hit pit road around laps 30 to 32. But saving a little bit, that might push it back to maybe lap 33, lap 34. But I still think they are going to have to come to pit road at some point before the conclusion of this race. They've had the 8 of 3 cautions. However, most of the field came down pit road on either the 1st or 2nd yellow flag, so that doesn't really do much in terms of saving fuel under yellow. As they were 4 wide off the corner, they're able to handle 4 wide. 5 wide is what's brought about our 2nd and 3rd caution. So as long as they can keep it 4 wide, I think we might be able to see this thing go into at least a slightly green flag run. We've completed 21 laps, and we have had 3 cautions in that span of time. Got some new players coming up here towards the front. The 20 of Alex Benyacko. We know that team is usually fast every week. 16th in points coming into this race. Got some manufacturers that could work together here too. Quite a number of blue ovals towards the front of the field. Got Almariego leading, Langeland in 2nd, Benyacko and McIntire up here. We've also got some Camrys up here too. Remember, Camrys sat on the front row for this race with Alexander Rowe and Simon Bloomfield. Well, you've got Adam Garcia, Nathan Stapleton, William Flickinger. And then for the Chevy side, you've got Rob Evans, Charles Sandfer, Caleb Farrell. I also see Simon Salera working his way up here. As far as Dodges, not really any of them up at the front right now. Closest, I believe, is Oneal Balvin, who had that great near miss back under that second caution. Was able to avoid the spinning Cody Llamas machine, and he's about to crack the top 10. There he is down the bottom with the 79 of Benny Watson. But I look towards the rear of the field here, and there's some drivers you just cannot count out that are still in this lead pack. I see Eric Sadler in the 14 back there. You've also got your points leader, Fury Gamington. Tristen Allen's back there. Keith Batson's back there in the 39. That's a team that's trying to bounce back after last week at Coca-Cola. Or no, I'm sorry, not trying to bounce back, trying to build off Coca-Cola. My apologies. I was trying to think. I knew that he had the biggest something last week. He was the biggest gainer in points. I was thinking for some reason that he was the biggest loser in points. That was actually, if memory serves me correctly, Rob Evans, who lost 13 spots. Keith Batson actually gained 11 spots last week at Coca-Cola, and he is 11th in the point standings. Got a chance to crack into the top 10. It's right there behind the Dustless Blasters Chevrolet of Tristen Allen. It's up front. It's Rob Evans and Adam Garcia. Now, here's an interesting thing, too, that we're going to have to keep an eye on. We had some pretty good battling in the lead pack in yesterday's Division 1 race. After we had the cycle of green flag pit stops, though, there was always one driver that always seemed to get a huge interval between themselves and second place. We're going to have to see if that takes place in this one, if indeed we are able to have the green flag pit stops, which we might be starting already. Jesse Turner, the 77, that bright green Toyota just hit pit road. This is definitely too early to be coming to pit lane in terms of how far you can go on fuel, so I'm assuming the 77 might be thinking about short pitting. If there is 17 to 19 laps, basically, in terms of fuel, that would put Jesse Turner us into our fuel window, and he would be short pitting, expecting this to be his final pit stop of the day. And if he's able to stay on the lead lap and get the aid of a caution, that's definitely going to help him gain some track position. But now we have to see, since the gauntlet's been thrown down, is anybody else going to take the bait and hit pit road on this lap? Benny Watson with the lead, not for long. Charles Sandfer is going to go to the top spot with Dillon Young as his wingman. Let's see if anybody peels off. And yeah, Sandfer no sooner takes the lead, he's going to hit pit lane. So all these drivers here on the strategy of coming to pit road when the fuel window opens. And this will be their last stop of the day. We'll have to see how Charles Sandfer lines up. It looks like Jeff Scott came to pit road when Jesse Turner did, as did Simon Bloomfield, Brock, and Hallec. We're going to have to see where Sandfer comes out after the cycle of pit stops all the way through the field in relation to the car currently out in front, that being Benny Watson. Langeland in second, Evans third, Gamington fourth, Garcia fifth. Right now you got two two-car tandems with the 79-62 and then the 65-10. Now that breaks up as Gamington's going to go for third. He might be coming to pit road, might have wanted to get to the inside line on purpose. We'll see. Anyone from this lead pack going to come to pit road this lap? Yeah, how about everybody? With the exception of Alex Benyacko, Simon Salera, William Flickinger, Daniel Voyles, and John Andrews. They're going to stay out. So that's going to turn the lead over to Benyacko. And I think, I'm waiting to look at the ticker, but I think these might be the last five we're waiting on to come to pit lane. Eric Sadler leaving pit road in the 14. So it looks like, in terms of the three drivers, in terms of the three different times they pit that we're going to have to keep an eye on, are the 03 of Sandfer, the 79 of Watson, and whoever ends up being the leader when this group of five decide to come to pit road. Which right now would be Simon Salera. His brother Sedale out of the race. So it's still a chance for a Salera to win, and nobody from this group is going to pit, so they're going to stay out an extra lap. Now, it would be in their best interest to all be running single file. That would help them put down much faster green flag laps and help them in terms of intervals between themselves, Watson's group, and Sandfer's group when the pit stops finally cycle around. As I'm looking at the top left, we're going to have to look and see who cycles around into 6th, because when these 5 pit, that could be the potential battle for the race lead. Don't think 6th place has crossed the line yet. Rob Evans, that time that we see there with him in 6th, I think was when he crossed on pit road. Now we got to see just how far these drivers are going to be able to get, if indeed they are on the strategy of stretching it as far as the fuel tank will go. Projections would say somewhere around between laps 32 to 34. And William Flickinger is coming to pit road, but he's coming by himself, as crossing the line with 6th right now is Benny Watson, but that group is almost a full lap behind. That was literally put down by 6th place when the leaders were coming out of turn 4. Leaders right now in turn 2, and where is Watson and his group? They're up here on the back straightaway. They're going to have to lay down some really good lap times. This right here could be the potential battle for the lead. This is for 6th right now. Gamington takes the spot. Tristen Allen will move into 7th. Sandfer into 8th. And we'll have to see anyone from the group here going to hit pit road. There's only 4 of them left. So we've entered into the 10 laps to go mark, and Voyles is in. John Andrews is in. How about John Andrews? Nice job getting up there into the top 5. We know he had some damage from an earlier wreck. Trying to keep himself up there in the points after his win last week at Coca-Cola. Keep himself in a playoff spot, as now we wait on Simon Salera and Alex Benyacko. Undoubtedly, these two would be in their best interest to come to pit road together. It's kind of interesting. Both of these drivers actually have something in common. They're both pole sitters from this season. Simon Salera had the pole back at Dragonet, and Alex Benyacko had the pole back at Armory Digital. But neither one of them currently is a race winner. And they're going to hit pit road. So now we're going to drop back here to Charles Sandfer and Tristen Allen, who right now would be scored in 6th and 7th. Well, actually now 5th and 6th, as they've already passed William Flickinger, who now merges around the 10th position. These two are trying to run down Daniel Voyles right there ahead of them. They're going to pass him easily. That right there for Sandfer was a pass for 4th. John Andrews just ahead. This is a pass for 3rd. That'll actually be Tristen Allen that will take that 3rd position. And now they've got to catch up to Simon Salera and Alex Benyacko, who I believe are just now leaving pit road. They are. So now we got to see, are they going to be able to pass them on the back straightaway? So right here is basically the battle for the race lead. William Flickinger did a great job, though. He came into pit road, scored in 6th place, and he is up here still with this group. So he's got a shot still for the win. Don't know if John Andrews and Daniel Voyles will be able to hang with them or not. As Fury Gamington now leads this pack, they're trying to make their way up to the 20 and the 4. There they are. And they're going to bypass them easily. So new race leader with about 8 laps to go, and that is Fury Gamington in the 10, looking for his 2nd win of the season, 8th top 10 in 9 starts. But look at some of the candidates you got back here that want to take that race win from him. Tristen Allen, who did not have a good run last week, dropped out of the top 10 in points down to 15th, but he still had a pretty consistent season, has Tristen. He's going to try and take the lead here. You got William Flickinger there in the 44. Flickinger comes into this race 13th in points. I mean, these are some drivers that definitely, with a win, could put themselves right up in the playoff grid. Charles Sandfer talked about his struggles last week. falling to 32nd in points. A win would obviously move him back in the top 30 in the standings. Benny Watson, who fell out of the top 10 last week, trying to get the victory here. And how about Keith Batson? A lot of momentum on that side of that car. Finished one position, if I remember correctly, short last week. Let me just double check that. I think he finished runner-up to John Andrews. Oh, no, he finished third. Cody Llamas was the runner-up driver last week. But Batson moving up 15 spots in the points last week after that podium run, trying to get the victory. And right here, it looks like it's only going to be 6 drivers to battle it out for this win. All of them, with the exception of the 10, looking for their first win of the season and a playoff berth. And obviously, with the hardship of Sedale Salera today, I think that Sedale would obviously fall out and one of these drivers would move in. One driver we haven't talked about today, and that's William Brock, who came into this race 29th in points. He had to stay ahead of drivers like Daniel Voyles, Josh Drake, and Charles Sandfer, and 2 of those drivers I know for certain are running better than he is. Sandfer up here leading this race, and I believe Voyles is back here just inside the top 10. Yeah, there he is. Last time by scored in 11th. Brock had a 2-point advantage between himself and Voyles and a 2-point advantage between himself and Charles Sandfer. So he has definitely lost ground to both of them, and I think that William Brock could very well be outside of the top 30 in the point stands as well heading into Talladega, which right now would mean heading into Talladega, if we do have a different driver go to victory lane in this race, then the 8th spot heading into Talladega would currently be filled in by the driver highest in the points without a win, which I didn't think we would actually have that kind of a scenario this late in the season, especially having 8 different winners in the first 8 races. As William Flickinger, boy, I'll tell you what, got to give props to that group. They were one of the ones that stayed out. They came to pit road by themselves and somehow were able to merge back with the lead pack and has a shot of winning this race. Can William Flickinger pull it off? We'll have to wait and see, as right now it's 2 Toyotas, 2 Chevrolets, 1 Ford, and 1 Dodge up in this lead pack. And out of these 6 drivers, none of them have any alliances with each other. Watson and Flickinger are not teammates. Sandfer and Tristen Allen, they're not teammates. And I'm looking at the top left just to see if that second pack is closing in, and they might be. Second pack was not really in the camera shot earlier on. And now they kind of are, being led by Adam Garcia and Dillon Young. They are only about 2.4 seconds back from the top 6. We might have more than a 6-car battle in the closing stage, and if so, look at some of the candidates that are in this group. Garcia, Young, Langeland, McIntire, Balvin, Stapleton, Evans, Turner, Benyacko, I think all of them. Daniel Voyles. I don't think any of these guys in this group have been to victory lane yet this season. And there's still a ways to go in this one. There's still time for them to catch. We're going to be taking 3 to go this time, and let's see. Last time by, it was 2.4 from Batson, or from Watson rather, back to Garcia. Let's see what the gap is from 5th to 6th. Now, they closed it in by a 10th. They need to do a lot more than that if they're going to have a shot of catching up to this group. They need these guys to continue to be side by side. That's one thing that they need. If they could get 3 wide, that would make it even better for them to close in. Keith Batson might be losing this lead pack, actually. And if he is, then he's going to fall back to that second group. And if they catch him, depending on where they catch him, that might slow up the speed of that second group. I don't know if he's still in the draft or not. We'll keep tabs on that. So up front, it's now Charles Sandfer over Fury Gamington. Gamington won at Pigs Creek. At this point, with the gap he's got between himself and second in the standings, I think he's basically already locked himself up a spot. Just personally saying, I think he's already locked himself up a spot in the playoffs. But no doubt about it, a second win would automatically lock him in, as well as the gap this time back to that second pack has increased by 0.2. And time is now running out. If they had gained another 0.2, I would have thought maybe they have a shot. But since they've lost some ground on this lap, with less than 2 laps remaining, I don't think that second pack is going to play a factor. So I think it's going to be these 6, maybe even just these top 3, if Tristen Allen and William Flickinger can't settle out that battle for 4th quickly enough. Now Watson to the inside of Fury Gamington for 2nd. Can he get to the left rear, though? He doesn't really have any help down there. I don't know if he's going to be able to get to the inside. No, he wasn't able to get a run. So can Charles Sandfer hold off Fury Gamington for one more lap? If Gamington makes a move, will anybody help? They're coming up on a slow car. That is Simon Bloomfield in the 21, who is damaged and off the pace. He could be a factor on this final lap as the white flag is out. At the Pepsi Super Speedway, Sandfer moves low. Everybody's going to go to the inside and avoid the 21. Sandfer now moves up. Gamington opened the door. Watson couldn't put his foot in. Saw Flickinger try and make a move there on Tristen Allen. That was for fourth, couldn't do it. And now Sandfer's got himself a pretty good gap. I don't know if that's a good thing. They're going to go 4 wide for second, though. Flickinger way low. Allen down low. But now it's going to be a battle, I think, for third, as now Gamington's going to have a big run on Sandfer through 3 and 4. Can he get to the back bumper, though, is the question. They're side by side for third, so he won't really have anybody to help push him. He's going to have to do it with draft and speed here on the straightaway. Gamington on the bumper of Sandfer. Peeks out of line, still peeking, can't make the move, now does it, but I think it's too late. Charles Sandfer on the outside is going to win here today at the Pepsi Super Speedway. And Charles Sandfer, after a heartbreak finish last week that dropped him from 22nd to 32nd, he's now going to jump back up in the points and have a 1 in the win column. He's the second driver for Retro Racing Enterprise to go to victory lane this season. Shelton back in Division 1 at Dragonette was the first. And now Charles Sandfer, has he just put himself in the running for one of the 8 playoff spots in this season's chase for the championship. He had to hold off undoubtedly the most consistent driver this season, and Fury Gamington, circumstances working out in his favor. Standings are now official, and Gamington, even though he didn't get his second win of the year, still the consistent finishes continue for the 10 car. He'll now have 1 win, 3 top 5s, 8 top 10s in the first 9 races. He has an average finishing position of 9.5 coming into this race. The only driver to have an average finishing position of less than 10th, and he's going to make that even smaller heading into next week at Talladega. I mean, Fury Gamington right now, no doubt about it, in terms of consistency, is looking like the favorite to win the whole championship this year. Obviously, with the playoffs coming up, that's not a guarantee with the way that the format is. But right now, just in terms of how the momentum's going, yeah, the 10 car is definitely the GOAT of the Skittles Super Speedway Series currently. Tristen Allen, a great run for him there in third place after he had a bit of struggles last week, so he'll jump possibly back up into the top 10 in points. Benny Watson, same for him with a 4th place run. William Flickinger will finish out 5th. And Keith Batson, 3rd place last week, 6th place this week. He'll jump up into the top 10 for, I think, the first time this season. That team has turned it around. If I recall correctly, they were down outside the top 30 in points at the beginning of the season. So great run for them. Same for Levi McIntire, a driver that came into this race 39th in points, going to finish 7th. So very well needed run for him. Kyle Langeland brings home an 8th, Oneal Balvin 9th, and Dillon Young is going to complete your top 10. Decent run there for Alex Benyacko and Nathan Stapleton, 11th and 12th. Stapleton, though, is going to lose more ground on Fury Gamington for the overall points lead, as it was Daniel Voyles 13th, 14th Rob Evans, Adam Garcia in 15th. Then it was Simon Salera, Patrick Smith, Jesse Turner, Caleb Farrell, and pole sitter Alexander Rowe completing your top 10. Driver that came in tied for second in the points, Jeff Scott's going to finish down there in 22nd, so obviously not the run he was looking for. Jack Hallec, who came in 8th in points, will finish the day out still on the lead lap, but in 26th. And William Brock, he did not finish ahead of Charles Sandfer. He did not finish ahead of Daniel Voyles. I'm not so certain that he's going to be in the top 30 in points when we head into Talladega. So right now, we could have 2 of our former winners outside the top 30 in the standings at the conclusion of this race, which definitely throws a big monkey wrench into the current-looking playoff grid, especially with a new winner today in Charles Sandfer. We had 27 cars finish on the lead lap. Brock was the last of those. Bloomfield finished a lap down in 28th. Josh Drake 2 laps down in 29th. And out of the race due to 3 cautions were the cars of Trey Wright, Chris Maley, Karson Gum, Alex Gray, James Shelly, Jake Galloway, Nathan Ormond, Cody Llamas, Michael Norman, Sedale Salera, and Jordan Lopes. Drivers that are going to take some hits in the points because of that, for sure. 4th in the standings coming in this race, Karson Gum. 5th in points, Michael Norman. And 7th in points, Jordan Lopes. So we'll have to see what the point standings look like after this race concludes. I think there's going to be a lot of movers and shakers with drivers moving up and drivers falling down. But that's going to do it here for our race weekend from the Pepsi Super Speedway. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, become part of the crew today. We have shown your full finish results. These are your overall point standings. Headed next week, we go a little bit more conventional in terms of a legit track, as we'll be heading to the Talladega Super Speedway for race number 10 for both Division 1 and Division 2. Qualifying kicks it off with Division 1, Division 2Q on Friday evening. Saturday, it's the Division 1 race, and Sunday we cap it off with the Division 2 race. After that, only 5 races will remain until we determine the 16 drivers, 8 from Division 1, 8 from Division 2, that will battle it out in this season's chase for the championship. Thank you guys for tuning in this weekend from Pepsi Super Speedway. Till next week, I've been Seth Cole, and you've been watching a production of the NNSCRA, offline racing at its best.